Alrighty, folks, let's get into it. We are live at last. Had a bit of technical difficulties for a second there. Wrong name showing up on the stream. It was pointing back to the same name as last stream, which was a good one with Chainlink. But this week we got a new exciting one, so we've got to make sure that that reflects properly on the socials for us. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're back another week. We're still alive. We're still here. We're building faster than ever, better than ever. And today we have a wonderful guest with us. This is Anthony from Elitra. Anthony, why don't you start off by telling the audience here what you do at Elitra, what's your background, and most importantly, what Elitra does.
Absolutely. Thanks. First of all, thanks, Matt, for having me. It's definitely great to be here and share more about what we're doing and our collaboration. So definitely, let's dive into it. So on my end, I'm one of the co-founders of Elitra. Before this, I was a product manager at Ledger, where I worked on what we call internally the core wallet experience. So everything from portfolio user experience, could be some features such as MEV protection, high security flows and features I've worked on. So if you own the Ledger and you were using Ledger Live, I used to work on those core features at some point, spent 4 years there. And basically to say that I've always been focused on the intersection of self-custody UX and DeFi. Definitely always wanted to build crypto. Crypto is a place with a lot of opportunities and lots of things to build. To build and to do, basically. So wanted to commit myself fully building, join an accelerator and start building Elitra. It's been almost 6-7 months now. We're heads down building Elitra. And a couple of words on what we do. We build the automation and tooling layer for on-chain asset management. And to put it much in a simpler terms, we build fully automated vaults and the tooling around them. So the aim for us is everyone wants to go after idle liquidity, and this is what we want. In crypto, we want more capital to go into DeFi because it's not fair that the market is $3 trillion and now we're, I guess, around only $150 billion, $130 billion in DeFi. So we want to attract more liquidity to DeFi, but also our aim to our infrastructure is to make the actual liquidity much more coordinated, efficient, and automated.
Yeah, super well said, Anthony. And I mean, like, I think that is a really good point to make because that's one of the big unlocks of DeFi. I can pick a strategy to deploy my capital into, and I can do my research and decide which strategy is going to work best for my capital and my risk parameters, my expectations, all of that. But I don't have to be such an expert that I need to know how to execute that strategy. So I think it fills a massive gap in the market that you see in traditional finance, where you're either the expert executing the complex strategy, or you're just investing in the expert and have nothing to do with the actual strategy they're executing necessarily, unless it's like, very, very transparent what the strategy is, which is usually not the case for the complex strategies that are being executed in traditional finance. I'm really excited to see those strategies start to move over into crypto and into DeFi. I think that is going to be a massive capital unlock for us. So yeah, definitely excited to get into that more today. But just to take a step back to our integration with you guys, Elitra is going to be integrating SpiceFlow, one of our first products. And just wanted to hear from your perspective for our community, like the things that attracted you to wanting to make that product integration.
Absolutely. So for just getting back to your point as well, so it's also new types of strategy that are available on chain, but right, the automations and the infrastructure that is out there right now and that can be used can also optimize, for example, simple lending, simple AMM, liquidity pools and so on. So there's definitely an exciting time to be building in DeFi, no doubt. And yeah, this ties into Spicenet and SpiceFlow precisely and our integration. Basically for us, I come from a product background and we really believe and think that vaults should be treated as a standalone product, similar to, for example, how wallets are treated as a product. So they definitely need great UX, Safety, of course, is on top of the priorities, predictable flows, and of course, from the user side of things, I would say zero mental load. And the market today, most vaults today don't treat them in such a way as a product. It's more like a financial primitive that is just there and generating some yields. So this is where Spicenet for us really, really matters, because in the whole like infrastructure stack that we're building, one of the many frictions in DeFi is simply getting into the strategy, right? So we've all had that moment when you tell yourself, okay, I want to get into DeFi, I want to start generating yield, my assets are in my wallet. You're like, okay, let me sit down and do it, and then you start doing your due diligence and so on. But the moment when you connect your wallet, you realize that you're a few steps away from being deployed to the strategy. So right, so you realize maybe that you have to bridge to a chain, then swap it back, then approve again, and so on. And you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do it tomorrow. So this is precisely what Spice Flow is gonna let us avoid from a user's perspective. It's gonna let us remove all this friction, one of the many frictions that there are, but this is one of the key ones that it will remove this entry barriers from a user's perspective. So wherever you are, any chain, any asset, thanks to Spice Flow, we're gonna be basically zapping or abstracting all these different steps, and in the end, it's gonna turn into the whole thing into one smooth flow. And this is how and what good DeFi products should start feeling like.
Yeah, totally. And I agree. Like, I think that goes back to what you're saying, try to bring more capital into DeFi. A quick anecdote about why I think a lot of capital isn't in DeFi is because of like the high level of knowledge that you need to have to safely do exactly what you're describing. So if I know about a vault on Elitra that I find super interesting, the amount of knowledge it takes for me to have accumulated just to be able to go and access that vault is not an amount of knowledge that most people have. And even me, it's pretty embarrassing as a founder of a crypto project, but even I messed up trying to bridge a couple of months ago. I was just trying to offboard some ETH. I had money on Solana, but the off ramp I use takes Ethereum. So I'm trying to send USDC on Solana to ETH on Ethereum directly to my offboarding platform, and
I
I
see.
accidentally sent it to ETH on base chain, and then so it goes to my offboarding platform, and basically like they're not built to handle this, so it
Absolutely.
doesn't show up in my account, and I'm on support like talking to their support
Yeah,
team, and thank God I got the funds back, but it took I think 4 months, and I also knew what to do immediately. I'm like, oh shit, this is what happened. I need to go contact them and tell them exactly what happened, send them the transaction hash, all of that stuff. If I didn't know that, I'm probably not getting my funds back because they're not
absolutely.
battling tooth and nail to do this work to give me my money back. And then you think about somebody who hasn't been in DeFi for 8 years like I have, like they are so likely to make that mistake, and
Yeah,
then on top not going to know how to get their funds back. So quick anecdote there, but then back to what you said as well about vaults becoming a standalone product versus like a little cherry on top. What do you think makes like a product and a good product at that in the DeFi space?
for sure. And to your first point as well, like it reminds me of the early days, right? And still, like even when my days at Ledger, people used to like we've seen users just sending their funds from the wallets to exchanges, and then exchanges get commingled on blockchains that the exchange doesn't support, and then you get into the same basically process as you did. So and just if you think about it, this is on top of the funnel, and then once you want to get your foot into DeFi, you have to start thinking about the strategy, where your funds is going, due diligence, and so on. So this is what we're trying to abstract, and in terms of how what actually makes a good DeFi product in 2025, I think at this stage and where the market is, how I see it is it should be simple, safe, and accountable. This is the most important part. So like to have invisible complexity is one part of it, but the other part is transparency and auditability. And we've seen what happened recently with Stream Finance and Aave and so on. And we firmly believed, and we know because we've been users, we've spoken to users. They want to know where their capital is going, what risks are they taking by deploying their funds into vaults or even strategies, the fees that they're paying, and at the end who is accountable if something goes wrong. This is to say that DeFi is becoming and has become much more sophisticated. A lot of capital is moving on-chain. Strategies are starting to live across multiple venues. Right now, you can easily deposit some assets into a vault, and the vault can execute and get some strategies cross-chain. So transparency isn't optional anymore. But the TLDR for us, a good product, has 4 things so far in 2025. Definitely, this is going to evolve in very interesting ways. For us, it's a simple interaction from a user's perspective, UI, and so on. Transparent strategies, risk scoring on these strategies, and sharing them with users, and also having like really solid and verifiable reporting. And finally, it's on the exit side of things and liquidity, like and really showing like this seamless withdrawals. If there's a queue, like, okay, this is the queue in terms of how much it's going to take for your funds to be withdrawn, and so on. So basically, no games, just fully being transparent.
Right. So like a UX that people can trust, also
Yeah,
a back end behind that UX that people can trust. You would say are
absolutely.
kind of the most important things for the evolution here.
At this stage in 2025, for sure, like this is the foundations, and we're getting there yet, but we still have a lot of work to do. And then there's this kind, like, once we get there, in my opinion, the product can evolve in very interesting ways.
Where do you think we do evolve? Like from a
Yeah,
product perspective, as well as like any macro things that you think might change in the space?
absolutely. So in terms of macro, we've like maybe a couple of things we've seen this happening and it's happening. So on the tokenization wave, I don't think this is just pure people just saying that we're going to tokenize everything. It's already happening slowly. So we're going to have different types of assets living on chain, and stable coins are starting to become much more accepted broadly. So this sets the foundation on for us, like setting DeFi in a very good spotlight. And I think like we're moving from a DeFi perspective, we're moving from this era. It's still gonna exist, but like where everyone wants to chase the best yields into real yield infrastructure and relatively safe yields in a way. So it's about safety, transparency, and accountability. And one thing that we feel like the space needs and was highlighted also recently is insurance. It has to become part of that foundation of everything that we're doing. So Aave showed the way recently when they released their standalone app where you can just earn on your stable coins, I believe. And the whole spotlight was basically on insurance and the fact that you're insured up to $1 million. So we think the space should go there and is going there, and we're actively pushing and gonna push towards that direction with our infrastructure and providing this to our users. And I mentioned on the institutional side of things, they're finally ready. As mentioned, everything's being tokenized from different types of assets. The appetite is there. They definitely need the proper infrastructure to get to dip their toes properly in crypto, and basically so that they can build the equivalent of the financial products that they build in TradFi, but build them in crypto with this new technology and new rails. And this, for us, like this conversion is going to unlock something new, which is user will access yield and investment opportunities that didn't exist a few years ago. So a myriad of different types of markets and assets that users can access. And of course, that can be facilitated by vaults, because in the end, you can just aggregate different yield sources and adjust them to the user's preferences, I would say. But yeah, for us, like, future is clear: more assets, more yield sources, more adoption, institutional capital, risk infrastructure, automation. This is the direction that the space is going.
Yeah, like I think actual use cases, I guess to summarize that is like is kind of how you would put that very bluntly. And I think we are actually seeing that transition right now from like bet. I think most of crypto in the past is like, let's place bets on whose infrastructure is most likely to capture the market share. And then that's
Yeah,
why you have like these massive FDVs, right? It's like Ethereum's FDV huge, Solana's FDV huge, right? And then now people are kind of like, oh, well, wait a minute, they're not making any revenue.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Dragonfly VC. What's his name?
Oh,
Just
Hasib,
Hasib. Yeah,
his
his
recent
post
post
going
now.
around. Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
I think
I actually just read it. Yeah, before the call.
exactly. I think that captures this pretty well. Is like for most of the time, the speculation has been on exactly what he's saying. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, check my personal
Yeah,
account. I retweeted it because it was a really good read. But he's saying that this speculation has been the thing driving the industry. The speculation that basically we are going to grow to be, 1,000 times as large as the industry is now, and the revenue numbers right now don't matter. It's about like, okay, Ethereum captured this amount of the space, and we know the space is growing, so it's worth this much. And
absolutely.
that's kind of dying right now. And I think with that dying, people are looking more towards like, all right, what are the actual products here that people are using and that are generating revenue? So now, like Hyperliquid is kind of like the poster
Yeah,
child, I would say, of this cycle, because they are one of the first applications that's like you're seeing real adoption for at the application level. And I think what you're saying is that we're just going to start to see a bunch more, not hyperliquids, but like hyperliquid level successful companies that are building real use cases on top of this infrastructure that we've seen.
definitely. You said it very, very well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the speculation still should exist, and it'll come back, especially if we get into a really strong bull market. Like that's when everyone kind of stops humming and hawing about revenue numbers and
Yeah,
goes back to just like, oh my god, like it's going crazy, and I think we will get back to that. People seem to think that's never going to happen again, but I mean, the stock market had this like the
yeah,
past year. The stock market's been
absolutely.
around forever. So I think alt season will come back at some point, absolutely for sure. Um, when it comes to products, when it comes to all the different chains that are being built, like we're basically saying, right, that the complexity is something we're going to have to take away from it, especially with all the different chains involved and all the bridging involved. What do you think? Like how are we supposed to balance that basically? Like what are the things that we can do as developers that are going to make products with high differentiation, and obviously that involves complexity, but then make like a simple UX to anybody that might want to use that?
Absolutely. Like for me, I'm thinking of it more from the perspective of what we're building also, because it's there's a lot of complexity in terms of what we're building, and also balancing it with building cross chain, and also from the best UX perspective. But to put it simply, for us, cross chain is mostly an infra problem for us, not a UX problem, because our architecture has to safely orchestrate execution across different ecosystems, protocols, and each with different constraints and risks. So on our end, how we solve it is by having a modularized architecture. We plug it into different chains and protocols and adjust the modules if needed. But basically, this is to say that the backend complexity is not exposed to the end user, and they interact with a simple and unified experience. So we're taking the burden of all the complexity from an infrastructure level by integrating like, for example, Spice Flow, right? It's going to remove a lot of burden from us from a UX perspective, and we can show it to the users directly by removing this onboarding friction. So this is to say that we try to work on it from an infra level, do whatever we need to have the tools to make it as easy from a UX perspective, so that the user doesn't have to bear this complexity.
Could you elaborate on the point you're making of infrastructure kind of guiding the UX and sort of that bottom up approach?
Absolutely. In terms of what I'm gonna say is probably a bit debatable or arguable, but I believe that like the infra
That's the point of
teams,
spicy takes, my friends. Get
yeah,
into
exactly,
it.
like
Yeah.
like infra teams set the ceiling for UX, right? Like in a way, you're obliged or like to operate within the boundaries that infra teams set or create. I mean, there's only so much you can do from a UI perspective to try to abstract any complexity and so on. And we've seen a lot of products, right, in crypto try to abstract a lot of complexities from blockchains and so on, which do work sometimes, but like the ceiling is set from an infrastructure perspective, in my opinion. And if the infra is fragmented or bespoke or unstandardized, no amount of UI will polish or UI polishes basically will fix that. So in my opinion, good infra teams design for composability and also interoperability from day one. So when it's clean, it's modular, also standardized, definitely easier said than done. UX teams can build experiences that feel instant, smooth, and intuitive. So for us, it's kind of we're driving the infra and also partly the UI. So we're trying to play both roles and set our own ceiling in a way, but also by integrating different partners, because of course we can't do most of the things. We have to operate within their boundaries as well.
Yeah, totally. That's definitely something that Karthik and I thought about a lot, and I'll give credit where it's due to Karthik here on being an early adopter of EIP 7702. This is like the
Yeah,
Ethereum-based contract that allows the user to delegate. Essentially, the design choice for us there is a massive unlock in terms of exactly what you're saying, avoiding telling people what they can and can't do with our infrastructure, right? So if we didn't do this and we need to hard code into Spicenet, like this is an action that you can do if you call this specific thing, and we're going to build specifically to do that one action, then people can adopt for that action. But tomorrow there's a new use case invented in DeFi,
yeah.
and all of a sudden we've told people what they can and can't use our service for to create the access to their service. Like, so we're telling them, you know, you can't make this service and expect people to access it through us. So making that design choice, we were basically able to step around that and say, like, it doesn't matter what the next narrative is in DeFi, what the next super app is in DeFi. We want everyone to have access to it, and we want to provide that access to it. So we're going to make sure we don't get in the way at an infrastructure level and make it as general purpose as possible when it comes to what type of actions you're wanting to take across chains and cross venues through Spicenet. So yeah, that was kind of our take on doing that. Is there any like example at an infrastructure level for what you guys have done that is like leaving the door open for a great UX in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We're setting the foundations for this. So we some of the projects that we're doing is partnering with standalone DeFi protocols, and we want to plug into them and provide them with vaults in a way. So we have to create certain foundations and adapters that would basically adapt to their own risk parameters, wallet utilization, interest rate models, and so on. So we're definitely setting the foundations of this and leaving room for not only improvements, right? But you have a myriad of DeFi protocols and different ways that these can be managed. So we definitely stay flexible and make sure that we just handle the most important parts, and the tweaking can be done from our partners in a way. So we're definitely trying to embed this philosophy as much as we can in our way of building the infrastructure.
Yeah, and then since like you're able to essentially create a more evolved space for vaults and strategies to be built, you know, what do you think that next evolution is when it actually comes to the vaults and the automated strategies themselves?
That's a good one. Um, like I think like other than the right building interesting features on top of us, right? So insurance, you can really treat it in a way that is a product, and building cool features on top. I believe it's doubling down on the automated side of things, and basically this whole reasoning part that vaults can have, and it's basically to say that we can expand the dimensions that these systems can reason about in a way. So today we're seeing this in the market, like it's deterministic. They start to have some risk frameworks, and they enforce constraint instead of running a single strategy, which is a big step forward. But the next step, how I see it, is layering a richer data layer sources on top of Vault. So you could start adding some, for example, market sentiment. You can start adding much more volatility parameters, liquidation flows. So any basically additional data stream off chain or on chain that would give vaults a deeper risk aware operating brain. And from there, right, you can start saying like, the parameters on which these vaults turn start to become adaptive, not necessarily like just saying that is going to be AI, but the policies on which the vault operates can start to be much more smart and tuned in real time, instead of us going and adjusting it like before deploying and so on, and managing it in a way semi manually. So the evolution is clear, like from static strategies to deterministic risk-aware systems, which is what we're starting to see now. And then, right, it goes to be like multi-data policy and smart vaults that would allocate within their constraint, but in a much more adaptive way to the market.
So yeah, broadening like the criteria that the strategy is going to use. Like, I mean, I know you said not necessarily AI there, but that's got to be part of it, right?
Definitely, yeah. At some point, it's gonna be part of it. Like not so you just like unleash an AI, on vaults and let it do the magic. You have to constrain it in a way, but there's definitely gonna be some part AI that would adjust these parameters in a smart way.
Yeah.
Or maybe the data itself can be AI powered, right? So you can have like maybe multiple AI streams and so on. But there's definitely like it needs a better brain, and AI can help with this better brain.
Yeah, I think that's a super interesting point. I was having a cool discussion yesterday with a friend of mine on like how AI is kind of differentiated as something that humans have created, because it's the first thing that we've created that can make itself better. And so that's sort of like the on the curve, like probably like the moment we look back on in terms of our technology development is like right now, where you have things that are making themselves better. I think in the context of trading, like at a certain point, are humans gonna be able to create better strategies than something that is like 24 hours of the day making its strategy
Absolutely.
better?
And decisions.
Yeah. Like, is that am I on the right track there? Do you kind of subscribe to that belief that like eventually you're going to need to have some sort of AI incorporated in your strategy for most strategies, unless it's like a simple arbitrage or something, in order to be competitive?
I think it depends, right, on for sure, but it depends also, right, on what you're building and the positioning that you have in the market in a way. So maybe like you can use AI like to justify the fact that we need AI to basically be the to chase the higher yields, right? So we want to basically beat the market, be much better than hedge funds, and we're going to use AI to power this part. So for example, maybe aggregate, I don't know, tens of DeFi's protocols, try to squeeze bips from here and there. But then there's also a world where you can use it in a different way, or combine a mix of both. For us, we're more on the safe, reliable yield. We're not competing on yields. But there's a world where you can use it to optimize, right? Like rebalancing users' assets from the different DeFi strategies that you're deployed into, right? So it can basically power your algorithm that you're currently building to manage risk, to decide when to rebalance user asset. So I think it's how you use it, but definitely it's going to be injected in different workflows necessarily.
Yeah, so you guys are making a point of starting on like the risk side of things, then starting on the yield side of things, right? And what I mean by that is
Absolutely.
optimizing lower risk, right?
Exactly. Optimizing for lower risk, doing everything we can to make sure users' funds are secure, reacting also whenever there's some volatility and so on. So really setting the foundations for this. And then you could imagine a world, right, where the foundations are set and so on. We start injecting some intelligence into this layer and constrain it to operate within those boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask basically if you think that the greater retail economy, or just people in general,
Yeah.
are ready for automated strategies that they're going to deposit into, as opposed to like executing their own trading. I suppose that like optimizing for risk is sort of your way of addressing that, right?
Yeah, it's so for me, it really depends first of all on the type of user that you're like that we're targeting, and also what abstracted strategies mean. Like I think you have DeFi power users, right? They are still there. Most of them are the ones like really raw, basically doing raw transactions, having tens of tabs open and so on. So I think you're gonna still have like a cohort of very big DeFi power users that absolutely want control. But I think what they would need is better tooling around that control, right? So more visibility, more dashboards, and the ability really to have much better analytics. And this in a way could be also like you could talk about having AI on those side of things in terms of the tooling. But I think for most users, they want simplicity and transparency. So they don't want to manage all those 10 tabs, chase yields, think about bridging the friction and so on. So in a way, they want some sort of smart defaults that just works, but with enough clarity that they trust what's happening under the hood. So in terms of for me, like you just having an AI agent, giving it 100 USDC and it figuring out how to get the best yields. I don't think the market is there yet. We're seeing experiments there. It's gonna take some time maybe to trust a machine as much. But yeah, like what I think is that the market is not there in terms of fully trusting an AI agent, but slowly like trusting automations, trusting and gradually injecting AI into them. So basically, you wouldn't see like this is AI managed or AI optimized. You just think that you're deploying into a vault and the assets are rebalanced smartly. I think that's a middle ground in my opinion, at least in
Yeah,
the
it's like
short to mid term. Yeah,
yeah, we got to take baby steps on it, right?
yeah,
We're not ready to just say like,
absolutely.
take my money and make me more. Like
Yeah, yeah,
we want to know some of what's going to happen when we send the money, right?
100%,
Yeah, yeah. And
100%.
it's funny too because like I mean a lot of it is take my money and make me more in traditional finance, but it's just we're not trusting the AI, we're trusting other humans and to be fair,
Yeah,
humans at the Wall Street level have devoted their lives to this and gotten pretty good at it, obviously.
yeah.
So yeah, I definitely don't think AI is there yet where it's like, you know, have my money. But no, I think you're thinking about it the right way in terms of like what needs to happen for people to want to deposit. I mean, obviously you have a good grip on that. That's why you're doing what you do. That's why you're the guy to be doing it. Um, and and I mean, I think I see a lot of people kind of trying to argue over each other in the space about like what it is that's going to bring people in and it feels like on the builder side of things the sentiment especially on like crypto Twitter is pretty like PvP, I would say.
Yeah, yeah,
Which I find kind of silly because again we're all competing over such a tiny pool of revenue relative to where this space is realistically going to get. um, with that being said, like, do you have any thoughts about how maybe we can collaborate better as developers?
yeah,
If we're talking like between like protocols and infrastructure, um, yeah, any thoughts on that?
yeah. Definitely, I think what we see on CT is in a way negative sentiment, and part of operating in this industry is where whether we like it or not. Like I made my peace with it. You know, having been it's been like maybe more than 6 years. Like I'm really operating in the industry. You have to make your peace that you're going to be tied to crypto prices and market sentiment. So the idea is to remove all this noise and just not think about price, and just I always go back to the fundamentals and what this technology can bring, right, and its powers. And there's always something, right, that's going to remind you that this technology is there, like has a lot of potential. Something's happening around the world, right, financial crisis and so on, but we're just diverging. But just to say that it's always good to go back to the fundamentals of this technology and remember why we're doing what we're doing. So this is first of all, which can ease, right, collaboration in crypto. And then I think it's easier said than done. I think each layer should build with the others in mind, right? Because we're building in an open system, the composability and so on. So we really need to think about the different, I guess, layers or middlewares or any player that is available there, and keep them in mind. So just to give an example, so for example, once we want to plug into DeFi protocols, we would love, for example, from our perspective, being this sort of infrastructure in between or middleware to expose predictable, automatable, basically parameters or functions, right, so that we can deploy the liquidity in a very nice way or elegant way there. So this is just to say that we have to take each other in mind and really remember like why we're here in the first place.
I totally agree. Couldn't
Uh,
agree more. Like that's I mean I think that's what you and I are essentially doing, right? It's like you know that we're a service that can make your product stronger, more accessible. We know that you guys are worth making more access to, and like that's all that needs to be known essentially. Like I
100%.
I do think that more people have to think the way you're thinking in the space and put product first and not like, you know,
Definitely.
say I'm going to do it all myself. I want to own 100% of this market. Like, no, if
Yeah,
we can work together and we
for
can each
sure.
own 50% of it and the market grows to be huge because we created a really great product, then we're all going to win. And yeah, I think that that's well said, and I totally agree on that.
Absolutely. Like the market is like relatively right, is still a very small market, it's still a very niche market. So and like if as right the Hosib's tweets, right? Like he in the end he said like you should not hate like those blockchains or whatever, like those blockchains, because we have to see the bigger picture. And if we're going to eat the pie, right, of TradFi and the whole asset management or assets market, financial market, like this is going to really be super big. So we definitely don't need to forget the big picture, and we're all here basically to win together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the PvP honestly does come from the difficult in accessibility, like the difficulties there. Because if it was super easy for me to access your application, regardless of the blockchain that it was built on,
Yeah,
like there would be no reason for us as users to be like, my blockchain is the best. And like, if you use a different blockchain, you're stupid, right? Because you could just
absolutely.
use any application, no matter where it's built, and it's fine. It would be like, you know, it's easy to buy a black shirt. It's easy to buy a gray shirt. It would be like if you met somebody and they were like adamant that you should only own black shirts because it's the best color for shirts. Like it would just sound stupid.
Exactly.
But
Well said.
if you had to pick at birth what color of shirt you're going to wear for the rest of your life, it would be that. Like that would be the way that humans talk to each other. And that's what it is for blockchains right now because access is so shitty.
Yeah,
So that I think that's one of the things that I'm excited about at Spicenet is like we get to make an environment in which people get to collaborate a little bit more and people get to kind of win together by tying products together and making the best
absolutely.
overall product that's going to be accessible no matter where people are. And that's my rant for the day. One thing I forgot to bring up because you were talking about like fully automated strategies and how they're not quite there. I don't know if you were following. There was a couple months back where they gave each of the major LLMs like some crypto to execute
Yeah.
perp strategies with. Did you follow that?
I was trying to find like when you mentioned this, I was trying to find because I had the website saved somewhere, but I did follow this, but it was more on the trading side of things, if I'm not mistaken. And now I
Yeah.
went back to the website, and I guess the person developing this put them to trade stocks, I believe. So I couldn't find like the crypto side of things,
Oh shit.
but it was more on the perps, like really giving them assets, maybe some market data, and then letting them trade perps, I believe on Hyperliquid, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely a very
Yeah.
cool experiment. Let me try. I
Yeah.
don't know if I have it here, but yeah, it
I
was very
wonder I
cool.
wonder how that resulted because I followed it for like the first week or so,
Yeah,
and I think on the whole, like it was pretty like net even if you like summarize the results of all the AI. So you had like some that were down 50%, some that were up 50% type of thing, but it kind of
yeah.
netted out to like nobody really making anything. Um, or I mean, on the whole, like them not producing any income, but
In aggregates,
yeah.
yeah, but there was, I guess now I checked it. I'm just trying to find the website. I couldn't, but I think DeepSeek was was performing the best recently. Like if you think it like
Yeah.
in a standalone AI, like for sure we're this is like AIs are going to trade against each other definitely at some point. And then the
Yeah.
thing is like in crypto, like it's we're not there yet, like because even we don't have, I guess, those benchmark LLM tests and so on just for like crypto, for DeFi and so on. So it's still like a very nascent space, not super developed compared to traditional finance benchmarking and so on. So there's definitely work to be done there, to have some models that are much more specialized in crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I want to figure out what those results were. I
Yeah,
imagine like I mean, I'm sure if they were like very positive and the AIs were killing it, or even if one of them was like killing it, then somebody would be talking about it and I would know. So for excuse me for being naive, but I'm going to assume it
yeah,
didn't end up being like that crazy good results.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, once that happens, I don't even know what type of shift that's going to make for finance. It'll be an interesting one. I'm definitely excited to see how that unfolds. But anyways,
definitely.
Anthony, I should let you go. I really appreciate you coming on today. We're at about almost the 45-minute mark here, and I smell dinner in the kitchen that my girlfriend has cooked.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I'm
Nice.
ready. I'm ready to go eat that. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Before we hop off, I'll give you the opportunity to tell us about how people can support you guys at Elitra and anything upcoming that you want to direct attention to.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me here again. It was great chatting, going over everything, the market, and so on. So thanks again for this. Thanks for everyone tuning in. And in terms of our updates, so now we're heads down working with projects. So definitely stay tuned. You can follow us on X, and we have a Telegram channel. So we'd love to see you there. And any questions that you have, like DMs are open, channels there. And we're gonna have some interesting updates in a moment. So definitely stay
Awesome.
tuned.
Yeah. So everyone give them a follow. What's your ad on X?
It's Elitra_XYZ.
Elitra_XYZ. Let me add
Yes,
that as a caption here.
appreciate it.
Make sure that it's thrown up, and then it'll be in there for eternity when people check out this stream and the recording of it. We do have it recorded.
Nice,
Elitra.xyz. Add that. Hopefully that shows. Yeah, there we go.
nice. Yeah,
See, I'm becoming
and
a pro at this restream thing.
yeah, absolutely. And definitely once the spice flow is fully tested and out, like they can test it on our front end. So we'll do some updates on X about this.
Totally, yeah. We should do a campaign at one point. We have one coming next month
Nice,
with one of our integrations. So that'll be our first. We'll get like live users in the testnet there, and then yeah, when everything's ready with Elitra, it'd be fun to do the same with you guys.
absolutely. Looking forward.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in. It's been another great week of spicy takes. Anthony, our great guest from Elitra. Remember to follow them on X. They've got exciting announcements coming soon. And until next time, stay spicy, guys. Take care.
Appreciate it.